Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Lunar Counseling Podcast. I'm your host, Kiara Brown, a licensed professional counselor, EMDR certified therapist, and certified hypnotherapist, and the owner of Lunar Counseling. This podcast is a space for grounded, real conversations with therapists and healers about the deep layers of mental health and healing. Today, I am joined by the beautiful Elizabeth Liz Mann. Liz is a licensed independent clinical social worker, integrative psychotherapist, and Reiki Master. She is the founder of Winding Path Counseling, and Earth and Ember Wellness, where she blends evidence-based therapy with energy work, somatic awareness, and identity-focused healing to support deep, lasting transformation. Liz is also the host of the Alchemical Path podcast, where she explores the intersection of psychology, spirituality, and embodied healing. So, welcome, Liz. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. So, I ask everyone, what brought you into the therapy world?
Yeah. I think just like with everybody, a lot of very unexpected and life events that just compounded on one another. I started with going to school for music and quickly realized that being a music teacher was not going to be the path for me and I wasn't going to practice enough to be a performer. I had a period of time early on in my college career where I was a little lost, and I actually remember there was a day where I was working in a student center that worked a lot with foreign exchange students. And I was sitting in, I think it was like a presentation or something like that for one of the exchange students. And she was talking about the experience of coming to our country and just like the culture shock and some of the challenges and everything. I just had this kind of intuitive aha moment. I'd had experiences earlier in life where I knew I wanted to be some kind of a helper, but this was really like the aha moment where I was like, oh, psychology. Unfortunately for me at that time, I'm going to say, not mature enough to be in school. And I had to work my way back into a GPA that would get me into a psychology program. And I did. And yeah, one thing led to another. And I was able to get my GPA up enough to get into a psych program, but then they're like, you're not going to get into grad school with this. I worked at a group home and psychiatric residential treatment center for a while after I graduated. And then I remember it was the clinical director who I had a good relationship with. She was like, is this all you want? You just want to be like direct care staff? You don't want to take your career further? And I was like, I was told I couldn't get into grad school. So I don't know what else to do. And she's like, try, just see what happens. Lo and behold, I was able to get into grad school and was actually very supported. I was very lucky that I had some really amazing staff at the school of social work where I went that helped me along the way and actually gave me some additional opportunities just to prove to myself that I could do it. And I actually wanted to do macro social work. But moving back to Minnesota and then getting into the field, there are macro social work positions, but I just got into therapy and actually didn't like it for a while. But once I moved out on my own and I was able to practice how it felt intuitive to me, I started to really like it a lot more. So decided to open my practice in 2023 and here I am.
Yeah, like the journey is like really what makes us. And I totally agree with you. Like, whenever we're like working for someone else or we're working in an agency, that's not always like the best fit for us. Because especially if you have any intuitive features at all, they're like, no, you have to do it by this book. You have to do it this way. You have to follow these rules. Obviously, like, we have ethics and laws we have to follow. But there's other ways to play within it that like agencies don't always let you do.
Right. 100%. 100%.
Well, so you had a huge journey. So like, where in that journey did you become a Reiki master?
Oh, good question. So my timeline is a little bit weird right now. I just got back from vacation. So I'm like, when did I do things? It would have been last fall, I believe. Well, I don't have a date on it. Last fall. Let me back up actually. Sorry. I actually met my Reiki master because I went to her yoga studio a couple of times. I had a membership there and I had this aha moment in a yin yoga class, which like if you've ever done yin yoga, like you're stretching for 5 to 7 minutes at a time and there can be a lot of emotional release and everything. And I just had this like moment where I was like, you need to work with her. So I reached out to her. We got together and I thought we were supposed to work together in the business capacity. And I remember like showing up to her meeting and it was super awkward because I just knew I was supposed to be there, but I brought nothing to the table because I just didn't know. I didn't know what it was that I was supposed to be doing with her. So we ended up connecting and talking more. And then there was a period of time and she was like, hey, you should come do a Reiki training. And it took me a little bit because I wasn't exactly sure where I was supposed to be, but I made it happen. And so I did Reiki 1 and 2 with her. Then she does a weekend immersion. So we do Reiki 2 and I was like, amazing. The whole weekend, I was like, I am so into this. And there were so many moments where I was like, you're already doing this in therapy. Like you've been doing this, a lot of the work, where you're like sensing what's happening with someone and you're reading their energy. We call it reading body language or we're catching a vibe or whatever it is, but so much of it. And then so I'm a accelerated resolution therapy therapist. So she actually integrates some traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda techniques into her Reiki training. And so she started talking about meridians and like how to clear lines and like acupressure points and all of these things. And I was like, so we're using eye movements, which have a lot to do with like where your meridians land and like we're using this to process things like there's so much crossover. And I'm not doing a like super sophisticated job of explaining that just because I don't know all the stuff like off the top of my head. But I was like, we're already doing this. All therapists are doing this without realizing it. And so I was like, yeah, I need to continue with this. So she did a Reiki master training later in the fall. And she says, like, Reiki 2 is great. Reiki master will change your life. And she was not wrong. And so becoming a Reiki master and getting to that point of meeting my spirit guides and learning how to work with them and also being able to read energy on other people. Like, I'm a skeptic. I didn't believe it until I was like doing it. And I was, oh, no, I actually feel this stuff happening. And once I did that, then I actually did psychotherapeutic Reiki training. I did 2 levels of that with there's 2 women, Jody Silverman and Elizabeth Hides, who are out of the Northeast who do this incredible psychotherapeutic Reiki training that's super immersive. And then I started integrating it into my practice. And yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Phenomenal. I just hear you talk about it, I'm like, oh, I like my mind. So there's so many different directions. You're so right. Like you, even like virtually, we can feel energies. Like I'm really working with my clients. And even with that, like I can feel their changes. Like if their heart rate increases or anything like that happens, I'm like, oh, where is this coming from? Because I wasn't feeling this before. Say what this thing, and all of a sudden this is happening. What's going on?
Exactly. Well, I always tell people, like, if you walk into a room, like most people can catch a vibe if there is one. And I'm like, you're feeling energy. You're feeling people's electromagnetic field around you.
Yeah, that's so true. So do you, whenever you're doing Reiki with your clients, is it always in person or do you ever do anything of it virtual?
Both. Yep. So Reiki, you can do distance Reiki for anyone who isn't aware of that. And now that we're so connected, you don't have to be like on a screen to do it. My Reiki master does it because Reiki transcends time and space. She can do it for someone and then send it at a specific time. And it can be asynchronous. When it comes to clients, though, it changes the way that we do Reiki a little bit just because we got to stay within our scope and stay within our ethics. But definitely both. I have clients who I will give like distance Reiki to like in my office where I sit in my chair, they sit in their chair and we're just there in that space together. I have clients who get on my table and we do Reiki while we talk. But I also have clients who, virtually I'm sending them Reiki and I actually have them give themselves Reiki as much as they want to or can.
Like, wow, how transformative does that feel to you? Like, when you like just doing it?
It's I think it deepens the work and it brings in a somatic element that I think for a long time in the field has been missing. We're coming into this place now where as a field, we're recognizing the importance of somatic work, especially with trauma clients. And I work a lot with neurodivergent clients. And so bringing in the somatic experience of it, I think is really important. And so having people place hands on themselves and recognizing that I'm supporting them in their own healing, but that ultimately it's their own hands that are healing is, I think, A, really empowering, and B, just deepens the work so much.
Yeah, that is so true. And I don't know, just like in the like whole feeling like your clients should probably have had so many breakthroughs just from those like small little moments of empowerment. I feel like just so life affirming.
Yeah, it comes out different for everyone, the way that it's not always like this big thing. A lot of times it's really subtle shifts, but witnessing that, your therapist, like being able to witness people in their most like raw moments of healing and stuff and watching those little shifts happen and how monumental that feels in that moment is, I don't know, it's sacred work. It truly is.
So true. Do you pull in like any other intuitive or like cognitive elements into your work?
I do. Yep. I pull in like tarot, oracle cards. I have both. A lot of times it is for, I don't read for the client, but rather we'll do the intuitive card pull part. And then I'll read from the book that comes with it and then have them decide what it means to them. And it's always cool how, because I do intuitive readings too, like outside of the therapy space, how watching them light up when they get a card that is exactly what they were looking for, asking for, and like just affirms them in some way or helps them choose a direction or whatever it is that they're looking for, or just guidance. It's really cool to see them light up and be like, oh, and of course, we know that was within you the whole time.
Yeah, that is so cool. So with your oracle cards or your tarot cards, do you gravitate towards a certain spiritual element with them?
Oh, what do you mean?
Or I should say just a spiritual element, but any like forces. So like I love to use my dragon oracle deck because I love
Mm,
working with dragon energy. And I love using that. And I also love using my moon deck. So like I love pairing those two. But do you have any ones that you love to use?
I do, yeah. So I have it with me. I wanted to come with today. I know it's called Sacred Traveler Oracle cards. What I like about this one is because my namesake for my business, Winding Path Counseling, originated because I was seeing a lot of people who were so focused on following societal norms and like walking someone else's path and being so focused on trying to fit themselves there. And like the whole namesake is about coming back to your own path and allowing it to be whatever it is. And maybe having to walk through some woods or some rocky areas or things like that to get there. But that ultimately you're going to feel most aligned and authentic when you're on your own path. And so having my Sacred Traveler deck as a like reminder, here's your path, here's where you're going, your journey, and here's your support for it. That's, I think, really special.
It is amazing. Yeah, because you're right. Like we can't follow everyone else's path because we're not everyone else, their own person. And being like open and willing to actually take our own path, I think is huge. And I agree. Like, I think more people now are like, I can't keep doing this thing. It's not working anymore. I need to find out what's best for me.
Yep, there's a resistance to it and an awakening piece that I think is happening collectively. Is it painful? Yes. But more and more I'm seeing people find exactly what you're talking about, that they're sick of just following the status quo. And I think, especially for the millennial generation, we've really found that the status quo isn't going to work for us the way that we thought it was going to. And so what do? We pivot, we figure out what is going to work.
That's so true. And you're right. I mean, a lot of like, the moving forces now are like in the millennial generation because we're like the ones like coming out of the baby boomers into this. And we have a lot of baby boomer parents. I know I do. And like, push I stop against those like ideals. I'm like, yeah, but no. Going in from a different direction is like crazy.
It is,
But
yeah.
but it's fun too, because we are making our own paths Plus, like our kids, I don't know if you have kids, but I have really young kids, and just the generation that they're in is so different.
It's so different. Yeah. Yeah. It's cool to watch. And just with all the current events going on right now, seeing this big, I think regardless of where people stand politically, there is absolutely this like big clash of, and there's this big tension happening collectively. And I'm very curious to see how that tension gets resolved. We have a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you know anything about human design?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yes, I'm learning myself, and I have a coach who's teaching me some too. I still want to do the whole class, but it's been
I know.
but currently next year in 2027, there's going to be a whole new paradigm shift and a whole new energy type that's coming up. So I'm feeling that's also why this like last year and this year, like we're feeling this big push with all these big changes. And heck, we're going to be in the fire horse year when the Chinese zodiac comes in. So many things are changing. It makes total sense for all these things to be like pushing up against. And I think it probably is why the climate right now is so crazy. It's scary, but there's a cosmic reason for it.
Yes, 100%. The astrologers have been saying that for the last 5 years or so, that things are moving, things are changing. So I've been watching that and listening to that and being like, all right, what's coming and how are we going to move through it?
Yeah. So with everything that's been changing, how are you protecting yourself and like your energy with all of it?
That's a good question. It's an interesting time to be a therapist. And I'm just outside of Minneapolis right now. We're going through this like big time of unrest here and resistance here. And in my commitment to decolonizing my practice, I think that it is about staying present and staying aware and also helping out. I think a lot of people jump right to, I disconnect and I do all of whatever. But I think that as a white woman, it is more important than ever to be involved and to be putting yourself out there on the line. And I think when we're thinking about like nervous system regulation, we're thinking about like protection. I think it looks different in this time for where we're at. Normally, I would say I'm disconnecting, I'm resting, I'm doing all of these things. I think it's the opposite for right now, where it's getting involved, being in community. It is listening to people who've been doing this for a long time. It is acknowledging that there's some really crappy things that have led up to this and that this isn't really new. It's just new for us as white people. And there's just a lot of pieces there. I don't know how far we want to get into that stuff, but it's community, it's being involved, it's supporting, it is really showing up as best I can. And also making sure that the container that I'm providing, it's not scattered, it's not lacking, because what I'm doing as a therapist is part of the system, right? The part of the
Yeah.
ecosystem of activism. So I know it's a little bit of a vague answer. Like, I don't know that there's like specifics. It's a mentality of continuing to show up and recognizing that part of having privilege is continuing to do that, especially now.
And I think that's huge too. I mean, we don't need to get like super deep into the politics, but you're right. Like Minnesota, like it's been hit hard. And just the fact that you're showing up and like, even creating a safe space for your clients is huge because it probably feels very unsafe for a lot of citizens in that state. And actually, the way in Pennsylvania, so we haven't had any like huge changes like that since the George Floyd riots, and that's but that's been a couple years from now, years ago. So it's been a whole different thing.
Yes. It's a wild time to be a therapist. I gotta say but I also think in saying that, I want to acknowledge too that I've been doing a lot of listening, and Black and brown therapists are like, nope, this is the work we've been doing the whole time because of the like systemic oppression. And I think this is like, when we're thinking about kind of the theme of the podcast, like collective trauma, collective and systemic, like collective and systemic to me are the same thing. We have so much systemic stuff going on right now. And I don't know, I'm a projector. So like oh, go figure. So I feel like we back out and we're looking at the big picture and going, all right, what are we doing systemically? Because that's where our wisdom comes from, right? That's where our human design is, in that collective space a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel listening to the people that have been doing this work and acknowledging a lack of listening previously and owning up to that, doing better going forward, and then staying in it with people and navigating the system stuff. Not only is that very, like, on a spiritual level, like, necessary right now, but like in all the systems, it's necessary.
100%. Like I have clients that are immigrants and they are nervous, even though like they're here legally and they have all the things, like they are nervous.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, like I can't tell you not to be nervous because you have every reason to be nervous.
Yep. And I think something that we've been talking about is like, what is nervous system regulation? I'm putting air quotations around that because I'm like, can we get there right now? I don't know. But what does it look like to protect yourself? And what does it look like to, especially for people who are, how do we help clients who are in a very real state of like fear and real threat? How do we show up differently in the therapy space? And it's, it changes the whole paradigm, which I think is a good thing because it's going to
Yeah.
change how therapy is done forever.
Well, I think it needed to be changed though, because there's been so much of like measurable, quantifiable, like all these things. That's not what humans need. Can't be put onto a spreadsheet.
Yes.
Like it's not how we're meant to be. So I fully agree. Like especially now, people doing the more somatic work now, like you
Mhm.
can't quantify that. Every body is different, so it has to be all subjective reporting, and it has to be okay.
Yeah, and I think moving away from the like, and obviously insurance companies are a huge part of the problem, but moving away from the DSM, I think more and more people are being like, oh, we don't actually have to pathologize all of this stuff. And actually, it helps people to not pathologize it because I think what we've seen is that we have created a system in which people hear that they have a diagnosis and it becomes a part of them.
Mhm.
And it's but you're this is like a normal human experience. Obviously, some of them are going to be necessary. I think about more severe mental illness and things that require medication or require more support, things like that. But
Yeah.
I get so many people who are like, just, I have this thing, so I can't. Or it's so disempowering to people to have all of these human experiences pathologized. Of course, you're depressed. What's happening? Why do you think you should be functioning when you're being held underneath this giant thumb like your whole life, every single day, and you have zero freedom to do anything that you actually want to do with your life?
Yeah, that's so true. And I have some of my clients are like, I've done this for so long, or I've been told this is for long, so I can't. I'm like, no, that's an excuse that's been like programmed into your head. We can break you out of this box, but you have to be willing to put in that work to get out of that box. Instead of
Yes.
them like just the box is their safe zone. So they want to get out of the box. So I'm like, at no time, like you have to pick your heart. The heart of staying stuck and not improving, or the heart of putting in the work and getting happy or getting to where you want to be.
Yes. And this is where I love spirituality coming into the therapy space. And that can mean anything that people want it to mean. But I think having tools like Reiki, having tools like tarot, or man, I've talked to so many people who are doing really cool outside of the box things with therapy because it creates containers for a lot of these things that are in the current systems and paradigms and even the one the field has created. And it allows people to get outside of that and explore in a different way and coming from a lens that generally is pretty positive. We're not focusing on a bunch of what's wrong with you and things. We're focusing on what is this thing that doesn't feel great for you, or I guess that's not exactly what I'm trying to say, but I just feel like it creates a different paradigm for people to like to have outside of the systems, the things that are creating the problems.
You just like being more out of the box. Well, as you pull in like Oracle, Tarot, Reiki, human design, any of those things, astrology, it's like it's taking the pathology out of it, like you said. It's just like we're just keeping me human and help the human you, help your spiritual being feel better.
Yes.
Regardless of what the cultural norm says, you're going to be who you want to be. And to me, I love doing that too. Because you, all you have to be is just you.
I love archetypal work for that reason. I know for me in my journey, just like growing up, and I really struggled with a sense of identity for a long time. I'm a oldest girl who did caretaking and things like that. So, like figuring out who you are. I love like archetypal work for creating language and for creating ideas and like language, just language generation around that kind of stuff. So like when I think about human design, I love incorporating that in because like I knew things about myself, but I didn't realize that I knew things about myself. And then like you see the language, at least for me, I saw the language of it. I was like, this is it right here. And I think what I like about human design and like astrology and even more art, like the Myers-Briggs stuff, people have their opinions about it, but I like that it creates containers for people to be like, yes, that's really me, or I don't know if that really feels like me. My question is, why doesn't it feel like you? If is there an actual discrepancy, or are we missing something here that we should be considering? And the human design, like the human design stuff, I just love.
Of course, me too. So once my coach told me about it, I've become like super nerded out on it. And so I'm a mental projector. So I'm like always in my head. And when I saw all the things, like, yeah, this is me. And when I read the passage for my clients, whenever I do their designs and I pull up their charts and I read the little bit of their stuff, what? How's a book know me better than me? I'm like, it's crazy, but it's true. And it's
Yep.
been phenomenal.
It really does. And I think because we've relied so much on the DSM because humans are going to categorize, right? No matter what, like that's what we do. We categorize things, we label things because it helps us make sense of it. Having something like outside of the pathology domain and having something that gives you like, oh, here's all the cool things you can do if you're living your design. It just changes. It can still be a box if you want to let it be a box, but it doesn't have to be. It can be expansive. It can be a jumping off point, but like much more positive.
100%. Obviously, we all have our own like the shadow part of our
Oh yeah.
design and everything. But once you cut the shadow, the gifts that you get are phenomenal. And I have a client that we've done her design. I've pulled her chart like 4 times. This does not fit me. I'm like, these are what you're getting me. This is what I'm getting. And so it's like, okay, so what happened in your past that conditioned you out of what you were meant to be?
Yes.
And like figuring those things out and using them. And it's just been so much fun figuring those things out.
I know. Dude, being socialized as like a generator when you're a projector is awful. I've tried so hard to break that. And just like every single time I run into that, you better be doing something. What are you doing? And I'm like, now that I know it's no, you need to be resting. Like this is actually productive for you to chill out for a minute. It's crazy.
Yes. And I still run into that too, like where, okay, I know I need to take a break, but then like conditioning, you have to be doing something. Can't just sit. It's been crazy. For me, it's harder too, because so my son, he's a generator. My husband and my daughter are the manifesting generators. So I'm in chaotic energy for myself all day. And it gets like so draining. So I'm gonna get to the point like, okay, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. And
Literally.
of course they don't, because my kids are 5 and 3. That's that space.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I'm really fortunate because my family is actually like a pretty good mix. My mom is a generator, my sister is a manifesting generator, my brother is a reflector, and my dad is a projector.
Wow.
Yes. So there's a lot of chaos. But I think we've learned how to do it. But my husband is a manifesting generator. And so I found that they say sleep by yourself and make sure you have a lot of alone time. At first I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if that's like the right move, but man, it's the right move. Like just not, especially as I feel as therapists, as projectors, like there's a really cool component of it gives you a little bit of a superpower in the therapy space. But seeing clients all day, every day, like you really have to manage how many you have and the type of
Yes.
work that kind of stuff, because it can be a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have to make sure I do energy clearings every day. And if I don't, my mood I can keep it together for clients, but at home, my mood can switch super fast if I don't do the energy clearing because
Yep.
I work with trauma all day and like being in that thick, deep, dark energy sometimes it can really mess with me.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. It's a it's an interesting, it's not really a dichotomy, but it's an interesting balance to have where you're like so well suited for the work and also have to be so like mindful of it.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, what kind of projector are you?
I think I'm an emotional projector. I don't know off the top of my head, but is it where your definition is?
Your authority. Yeah. So be
Authority.
so either your crown, your anja, throat, G center, ego, your sacral root. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember all of them.
Okay.
Splenic, and then I can't remember the one for emotional. It's like I see the triangle on the chart. I can't remember the name.
I have a I don't know what a lot of it means because like my like knowledge of it is my own research and like pulling my chart and stuff. And I know that I'm a triple split definition. I'm pretty sure my authority is solar plexus.
Okay, yeah, that one. That's the emotional one.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
what I'm thinking.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't fully understand what all of that means, but I just some of the reading that I've done, I'm like, okay, you tend to make decisions emotionally. You should probably like, which makes sense because my whole life I was pretty reactive up until I started getting some more like therapy skills and things like that. So I'm like, makes sense.
But it's really funny too because all of my kids are emotional. They're all of the authorities are emotional. So like I had no definition below my throat. So I have my anja and my throat. Everything else is completely open. So I am literally a sponge for everyone's energy. That's why I had to do these two things. But like whenever their emotions get heightened, cool. Like I can manage my own emotions, but like theirs, it throws me. So
Mhm.
I really have to cool take its base.
What I'm curious, and I assume other people are probably curious about it too if they're not super familiar, like what changes, like, if you're a projector and your authority is in a different place? Like, what impact does that have?
So it really depends on what's the. I am no way a magic. So everyone takes it with a grain of salt. I'm just all self taught. But basically, what it means is that if you do not have that defined energy center, it's like you don't have access to your own stuff. So I don't really have access to my own emotions. And also, I feel emotions, but it's not like it doesn't guide my thinking.
Yeah.
My thinking is all because I have my anja and my language projector. I am always in my head, always thinking. I overthink a lot, and like I go from A to Z 100% of the time. So I have to like reel myself back. But if someone is really emotional, their emotions then amplify what I have, or I'm like or I express what they're not expressing themselves. So like my husband, because he has been taught like not to express his emotions, whenever he's feeling anything, I pick up what his emotions are, and then I end up acting them out. Not intentionally, it's also consciously, but it's like how like,
Int
we work.
Interesting. Okay. Learn something every day.
Yeah. And especially with structure, since we don't have our own like energy source, like we don't have the root or the sacral center, so we have to rely on the generators, the manifesting generators to get our energy. If we're around that energy too much, it drains us, and it can lead to for us to get burnt out really fast. So
That I
then,
know.
yeah, so we can be in energy for a little bit, so give us like a little oomph to do our thing, but to stay in it, it's not good for us.
It's so interesting when I learned that, like, the first time, I was like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense," because the people that I gravitate towards, there's definitely, like, I have a friend who she's, like, just on the go all the time, but really positive and, like, just always moving, always, like, achieving that kind of stuff, and I can do like amazing stuff that I would not think I'd be capable of when I'm around her. And I was like, oh, that makes sense because you're like borrowing some of her energy and filtering it through you to be able to do these things. It's not something you would do on your own.
Yeah, it's very true. And but it's like something that look out for, like, because if someone is like they have the generator, but their personality might not be the best match for you, then that will be like toxic energy, essentially. That was not good to like channel.
Yeah. Yep. So interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. I have a client where they they both are projectors, but they're both different authorities. And just seeing their marriage is like just so interesting.
I bet.
It's just like they're an interesting couple, honestly. Just like
I would, God, that'd be so interesting. I feel, I don't know. I think about like my dad and I together because he's the only other like projector I know in my life. We can talk for hours. We like intuitively understand things in a very similar way. But also when we clash, it's like a clash. It doesn't happen a lot, but it's two people who think they know it all coming together. And not that I think projectors are know it alls, but I feel like when you start to really own like what you can do and like what your gifts are, it's hard to let that go.
yeah. Whereas I want to say projectors do tend to be like the know-it-all people. That's what we are meant to do. Like we're supposed to look back and see the whole field. We can say things in a way that's not coming across as a know-it-all, but like what we do.
It takes some practice to, I think, at least for me, it's been a matter of, especially because I am like, I think about the solar plexus and being like that I am center and like being like, it's hard to separate ego from it sometimes, especially because there's such a fine line between what is the egoic mind making a choice about something versus what is intuitive and like being able to differentiate that. I feel like just takes a lot of practice and trust that can be really hard if you don't have that grounding. So, yeah,
Yes. Hard to be talking about like the clashing with like with you like with your dad. So my brother and sister-in-law, they adopted my sister-in-law's niece. And she's a projector, and my nephew, their middle child, is a projector as well. And those two are oil and water, like all the time. I'm like, I put the test, like, this makes sense. This is why they're fighting. They both think they're right. Also, the topic.
yep, yep. That's really funny, actually. I thinking about like little kids in play too. Like, I feel I don't know because I don't see little kids a lot, but I can imagine a projector like in a play situation is going to be a lot more big picture, what's happening, maybe more narrating, more like telling the other kids what to do, even depending on their personality. Whereas, like, I feel like the generators and the manifesting generators are just like in there doing the stuff. Where does that put reflectors? Like, where I don't really know anything about reflectors.
Reflectors. So, from what I can recall, people with reflectors, and listen to this, please correct me. They are like essentially the mirrors for the world. And it's why there's usually so few of them because they are meant to show what's wrong with what's going on. So they don't have a lot of their own internal definition. So
Whoa.
yeah. So they are really the sponges of the world, and then they reflect it back. They have their own stuff still, but it's a different way than everyone else.
That makes my brother make a lot of sense. I might have him listen to this so that he can hear that.
Okay. I don't know. Mine's just from reading books, but I also listen to the Human Design for Beginners podcast by Madeline Evergreen. She's actually
Oh,
based in Minnesota, I think, as well. She's phenomenal. She says that like in a very you don't have to know anything going into it. And her podcast is basically like a course. You start from episode one and you go up. And I go in and out of it, listening to it. So if you want to learn more, I'd recommend that one.
I'm gonna listen to it. I want to learn more. And that sounds awesome.
Yeah. She's really good. And her voice is really nice and soothing too. It's not she has like a very pleasing voice to listen to.
I love that.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's like crazy though. And then I mean, next year, we're like, there's a new energy type coming in. I'm kind of curious how it's going to affect all of us because it's just been so new too.
That will be really interesting. Lots of change.
It's also changed. But I think it makes sense for like where we are in the world right now.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, do you have anything special that you want to leave anyone with? Any tips or tricks that you want to teach them?
I'm not very good at coming up with things on the spot. So let me think for a second. Tips or tricks, like in terms of, can we narrow it down to, are we thinking existing during this time, like something specific to my practice?
Just not what you have a go-to movement that you have people do, or do you have a saying that you like to say to people, help keep them grounded, anything
Mm.
like that.
One thing that I say a lot is that the only way through it is through it. And I think that's important, especially right now, because I think we're so conditioned to avoid discomfort and avoid pain and avoid grief. And like I think a lot of that comes from just we're not taught very well how to handle or like to do emotional regulation. And frankly, like the way that our society is set up, it's hard to regulate. It's hard to do emotional regulation. It's hard to do nervous system regulation. So I think just like the reminder of, yeah, sometimes we have to probably disconnect or we have to do things to get a break from it. But that ultimately, it's so worth it to go through all of the things that come with healing, that come with like just walking on your own path, because being aligned with yourself and being in that, like that true authenticity. I heard something recently with authenticity is the highest vibration, that just like being able to get to a point where you can be in that, the way that you interact with that pain and grief and suffering and all of that changes so much. And it's not that it doesn't exist, because I think that's spiritual bypassing to be like, oh, it's all light and love. But to be able to move through that in a way that you feel confident, you feel like the eight C's of self, right? That's going to be way more impactful in the long run. You're going to learn way more by going through it.
That's true. And that's like really good advice too, because you're right. Everyone loves to like disconnect or like doom scroll or do something to mask the pain.
Yep.
Like you can't get through it unless you get through it and actually actively heal as you're doing it.
Yep. And the other thing I think is that, and I see we're just about time here. I think that, oh, I lost it. I looked too many places while I was thinking. Oh, people think a healing journey is like this thing that you do one time, then you're like fixed and you're good and you're just going to be good for the rest of your life. And I think one of the painful things about the healing journey is that it's that you're going to break over and over again, but you're also going to gain skills to deal with that over and over again. And it's actually very empowering and you grow by doing that.
Yeah. Every time you hearing that, it reminds me of I don't know, the Japanese proverb or just like a practice, but or maybe to my Chinese. I'm trying to get the Eastern things correct, but whenever something breaks, link it together with the gold and it becomes something even more beautiful after it's been put back together, even with the cracks.
Yes.
That's literally what it reminds me of.
Yes. Yep. It's like I was thinking about the other saying with that, where once the plate breaks, you glue it together, but it's never the same again. It's like, that's true. And the meaning that you assign to it never being the same again is the thing that is going to determine what comes next. If you determine that it's broken and it can never be fixed, and that's the sort of like identity, or that's the paradigm that you put yourself in, that's how you're going to live. But if you take that and you're like, oh, I'm going to put it together with gold and it's going to be even more beautiful. And that's alchemy. That's transformation right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. Just to close out, how do you prefer people to find you to get to know you more or just work with you?
Yep. A good question. So a few different places. I am on all of the major socials. On TikTok, I'm Elizabeth Mann. Facebook and Instagram, I've got both WP Counseling LLC is my handle for both. And then Earth and Ember is messed up right now because I'm not good at that stuff. So the handles aren't synced up, but Earth and Ember Wellness on Facebook for sure. Hopefully that shows up on Instagram. I have websites, wpcounseling.org and earthandember.net. And then I offer therapy through Winding Path Counseling. And then I do coaching and Reiki services through Earth and Ember. And actually, my sister's going to be joining me. She's going to be doing some career coaching for folks if they're interested in that. I think that's everything.
Listen, thank you so much, Elizabeth. This has been an amazing conversation, and I just had so much fun.
Me too. Thanks so much for having me.